I'm Ray Barry, and this is the Audio Wave Cafe podcast. On this episode, my guest is Nigel Meffen, bass player with Coventry and Warwickshire punk band the Delchronics. As well as talking about the band's new album release, Urban Playground, I also asked Nigel if there's an appreciation today for 1970s punk. First, I talk about branding yourself as an artist. I'll also be shining a spotlight on Pete Chambers' Coventry Music Museum. Let's move on. Is branding important for you as an artist or band? Well, damn right it is. I wish I'd taken it seriously in my early 80s band especially. We were writing our own songs back then, and the tunes we churned out were a mixed bunch of styles, which kind of went with the clothes we wore on stage, which was whatever you felt like on the night. Don't get me wrong, that works okay for some bands, but looking back, we collectively should have thought more about what we wanted to achieve, and who we wanted to play to, our target audience. And focusing on branding would definitely have helped us. Two Coventry bands that had strong brands back then were King and The Specials. And I'd go as far as to say the Specials brand is one of the most recognisable and rememberable music brands in the world. Not only did they write songs that were politically and socially savvy that resonated with their audience, but also their visual brand was strong too, with their suits and pork pie hats on stage. And also the design of the band's records, the image of the rude boy, the black and white checkerboard design. It all adds up to a powerful brand. Then there's King. Whenever I think of King, I think of their most successful song, Love and Pride, a well-crafted song. I think of the Doc Martin boots, the cans of spray paint, the hair and the clothes. I think the multi-tone boots were particularly striking as a component of their brand. If you want to develop a strong brand and create a compelling reason for people to go to your gigs, buy your merch, your singles and albums, there's a few steps you need to take. Write lyrics for your songs that people can identify with. What's your beliefs? What are you passionate about? Write memorable hooks into your songs. Listen to a bunch of your favourite tracks by other artists. What makes those songs great and memorable? Your music may not be the first thing people notice when they are checking out stuff in record stores or online. They could be attracted to your fancy pants artwork on your singles, or your very interesting bio, or the image you convey in a promotional material. Some will say, nah, it's the music that matters most. Well, good luck with that viewpoint when another artist or band with similar music style to you becomes more successful because they took the time and effort to create a memorable brand. Now please, just indulge me for a moment. Most people are aware of Batman, his image and what he believes in through films and comics. Now if Batman was also a singer-songwriter, I think he'd certainly give the Specials a run for their money. Writer Bill Finger and artist Bob Kane together created a powerful, unforgettable character and brand. And you should too. My guest today is Nigel Meffen, bass player with Coventry and Warwickshire punk band the Delchronics. Nigel, thanks for joining me on this call.
Well, thanks for inviting me along, Ray. It's really appreciated.
You're welcome. I became interested in doing a podcast with you when I discovered all the members had mental health issues and the band was formed so you could support each other. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back a stage, if I may, and sort of like try and explain the evolution of the Delchronics. Originally, they were called the Chronics. That's what they're originally known of, and it was because all the members shared challenges with mental health, together with a love of punk rock that has to come into it. And the guys, obviously, when they were struggling with the mental health issues, one of the things they were aware of or made aware of was that there was a number of support mechanisms available to help people who have mental health challenges. And the band, especially Dominic, who's the, or Dom as he likes to be known, who's the lead singer, and Adam, who were the original two band members, they used the government-backed scheme called direct payments, the direct payment system to help form the band in the first place. Dominic, in particular, had a lot of issues that he's written about in a book he's written called Is Anybody Listening? He wrote a book of poetry, but he wanted to form a punk rock band from it, because he used to do backing vocals with a couple of, or sometimes lead vocals with a couple of punk cover bands who were based in Leamington, one called the X-Piles and one called Betty Swallocks. And he knew as he was singing and performing that it took him to a different place, and it gave him some relief from the mental challenges. So he wanted to form this band called the Chronics. And as a 4-piece band, well, 4-piece plus one, but I'll get onto that later, all the members felt they were getting so much from writing songs, practicing songs, and playing occasional gigs. And they used the direct payment scheme to help that. And in particular, they used it to record 2 albums, one in 2014 called the Chronics EP, and one in 2015 called the Chronic Tales. So that was really where it all started, from this bond over mental health challenges. Hope I'm not giving you too much information there, Ray. I didn't warn you, I do talk a lot.
Well, when was the band formed?
Well, when I'll go back in time and tell you a bit of a journey again. When the band was first formed, so when the Chronics were first formed, there was Dom Mulgrew, as Dominic, who was on vocals, Adam McCormick on guitar, Darren Payne on bass, and Mike Murphy on drums. And then there was also extra guitar put on by John Wilson from One Nation Studios. The guys were introduced to John through the scheme, because through One Nation Studios, they offer a flexible learning program to help people with challenges, as well as being a top-rate recording studio. And this lineup of Dom, Adam, Darren and Mike remained the same for the 2 EPs, the 2014 and 2015 EPs, but the first EP had some extra drumming by a chap called Joe Morris. But there came an issue again. We're dealing with a complicated world of mental health, whereby Darren, the bass player, struggled with the concept of playing live. Although he liked being in the Chronics, he really struggled, and he decided to leave the band. And then apparently there was a 2-year search then to find a new bass player. And then one day, this is where I come in, I was at Express Music on the Binley Road in Coventry, and I saw a note that said, "Punk band need mature bass player." I'm thinking, well, I couldn't have written an advert for myself better than that. So that was late 2018, and then all of a sudden, I've not been able to escape from it since. My only real challenge though came when I asked Dom during a phone conversation, I said, "Well, what's the band called?" And he said, "It's called the Chronics." And I looked up and thought, okay, it's a cool name. So I looked it up on, did a Google search, and there were 21 bands called the Chronics. And I thought, well, if you're serious, you can't be named after 20. I mean, these were worldwide, but you're thinking, and they said, well, can't we just make it Chronics UK? I said, well, not really, because there's another 15 bands in the UK called the Chronics. So I thought, well, and a couple of those, one in Edinburgh was pretty well established. I said, look, we've got to change the name. And I said, but we're a punk rock band. You need to keep the chronic bit there. So let's make it something like the Subchronics or the Unchronics. And Adam came up with the Del Chronics. Almost makes it sound like a surf band. But, you know, when it's stuck. And to be honest with you, we've been the Del Chronics ever since. And that's how we're known.
I think it's a great name.
Well, we've been told this quite a few times, but there's no other Del Chronics. There's not 21 other Del Chronics, so we're all right.
Well, you got a point there, because I did, when doing research on you, I did go onto YouTube and put in the Chronics, and my God, there is some bands out there with that name.
Yeah. So
right.
You can understand why I did this, and it was a little bit of reluctance first of all, but only in a light-hearted way. But I don't think there's any of us don't want to be a Del Chronic now. That's the most important thing.
That's a good thing too. Post-COVID restrictions, how hard is it to find venues to play?
An interesting question, that one, because, and I'll give you an odd answer, not that bad. Now, I want to put a caveat on that, though, because right now, there seems to be a number of venues, a number of good venues, who are willing to take a chance on unsigned bands. And this is quite surprising because before COVID, well before COVID, ever since I've been playing in bands for quite a while, it was always been a nightmare trying to get a gig, and especially around the Coventry and Warwickshire area. In other bands I've been to, you'd have to go to Leicester and Birmingham to try and get gigs, or, as I have in the past, gone to London to play, because they're the only places that you can actually get a gig. I mean, a lot of them were almost like on the way of pay to play and things, whereby if you don't bring 200 people, you're not allowed here. But Coventry didn't offer that. It was before COVID when we first started playing live. You were having to go and play at Battle of the Bands competitions to try and get in anywhere. And we played a couple of times at the New Albany in Ilsden in Coventry, at the Battle of Bands put on by Sam McNulty. But that allowed us to establish ourselves a bit. And we're now, so post-COVID, we're now getting offered gigs, and in fact offered gigs at great venues such as the Arches and the new HMV Empire. And all I can say is I'm really grateful to people like Dave Brayley at the Empire, Roar at the Arches, and of course Sam, for giving us the chance to actually play live on real stages rather than just on like a corner of a pub. But I'm not knocking the corner of the pub, because we play those as well. Once you've got a name, and like I said, we've got the Delchronics, that people now know the Delchronics are us. And fanzine or punk zines like Eton Live, that runs out in Nuneaton, they've done interviews with us, and we've done a couple of podcasts as well as this one, which we're grateful for doing, Ray. And they've started to give us a recognition, and it's almost like we've established a name, and people say, oh, the Delchronics, they're a punk band. We've got a punk gig coming on. Let's put them on. So to go back to the question, how is it getting gigs and venues after COVID? A lot easier for us at the moment than before. It may be because who we are, but we are finding it quite easy at the moment.
How far do you travel?
Well, this is the thing, because we go back to the mental health side of the band. We are really only playing in the CV postcode at the moment. We're looking to get gigs outside, but you almost have to go softly with the guys, trying to make sure they're comfortable in an environment they know first. And that's where we are. But we are lining up gigs in Birmingham, Leicester, and hopefully London very soon.
Right, in London. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Have the band members found creating and playing music together therapeutic?
Yeah. That's one of the best. The best answer. I mean, you wouldn't normally associate punk rock in any way with being therapeutic, but it is. I've been in the band 4 odd years now, and I have seen noticeable improvements in the guys, and seeing how they have not only got better as musicians, but they've also grown in a lot of confidence. And this could have been knocked during COVID. I mean, COVID was a terrible time for isolation, etc. But we made sure that we stayed in touch using WhatsApp and using Zoom, because that was very, very important to make sure we kept the band together, because a lot of bands folded during this, and I knew how much guys needed this support. And I have to say, being in the band, not only has it been therapeutic, it's also built up a type of mental resistance for the guys. And you can only applaud punk rock and what they're doing, and go back to the direct payment scheme to say, this is brilliant what's happened, and they've helped people to cope better with life.
So I was going to ask you, is there an audience for 70s punk? But obviously there is.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is if you look at big bands, let's I say big bands back in the day. You look at things like Stiff Little Fingers, Sham 69, the UK Subs, just to name 3. They're bands that are still at it. Bands like The Damned as well. These guys are still at it, and they're filling venues. Now, for me personally, as the advert said, mature bass player. Well, I go by my advert.
Okay.
I wear it proudly. I've played in lots of bands over the time, but my ambition was always to be in a punk band. But I wasn't quite ready for the reaction to the Delchronics. I joined them for a bit of fun, to be honest with you. And we played our our first gigs for that. And there was one gig when we played at the Maudsley pub in Coventry, and this was supporting a band called the Molotov Souls. And all of a sudden, the audience started to react to us, and we thought, hang on, this is really good. We actually are a real band. That was like a turning point for us. And then early this year, we played at the HMV Empire in Coventry, and we went on after the Danny Ansell Music Band, and Danny Ansell was a very well established local musician. He did a storming set, and Nick Nibbs, who is in a band called the Department of Misinformation, he said to me, "Oh, I wouldn't want to go after them." I said, "We are." It was interesting. Like the moment Danny Ansell's band finished, like a lot of people disappeared to the bar because the bar's in a separate room to the venue. So when we took the stage, there was probably about 10 people there. And we started blasting out. And we tend to, when we play live, we play a song and go straight into the next one. And all of a sudden, the venue started filling until we had like the capacity of people there were watching us, and people were dancing. And my wife was there saying, like, people are mouthing the words the songs that they don't know. I don't really understand it. We then went to and played not long after that at the Arches in Coventry, and there were some young teenagers. They'd come to see another band, but they were pogoing. I've got a video film of them pogoing to the Delchronics. And then at one stage, they grabbed the mic off the lead singer, this kid, and they started singing the chorus that they just heard the chorus before, back to us. And it's almost like, is there a love for short songs and to the point songs, and no guitar solos, and not too much posing on stage? Well, the bass player poses on stage, I have to say, but not too much posing apart from that. And it's almost like you've got this new appreciation, and there's quite a lot of bands, whereas probably 5-6 years ago, all the bands were linking more to an independent, the indie sound of like your Oasis-y Blur type thing. Now it's almost like youngsters have rediscovered punk rock, starting to develop their own sound of punk rock. And then we've still got, I mentioned earlier, Eton Live fanzine, and Derek and Don are running this, and they did an interview with us not long ago, and they're on, I think, issue 68 now of their zine, and it's selling better than ever. I don't know what it is. Is it the way the world is at the moment? Is it UK with the high inflation that's only been reported this week? Maybe it's 1977 all over again, and we don't know.
And a good thing too. Could you explain what the lockdown demos are?
The COVID lockdown was a time of isolation, which was difficult for the band, but also it was a great time for creativity because you had nothing else to do. You weren't allowed out the house, etc. And I mean, I wrote a novel during this, as did many other people. But one thing I also did, there was one day when I was bored, and I came up with this bass line, and I sent this bass line over to Dominic. I emailed it over to him, and within a couple of hours, he came back with a full set of lyrics. He said, "I like this," and then we sort of recorded it remotely using my Mac, and we then did 4 more songs. So we did a song called Ghetto, one called Get My Own Back, one called Urge to Surge, and one called Mosh Pit. We then sent them to John, and John did his magic at One Nation Studios, and he turned them into 4 tracks. And we were still in this lockdown bit, so we thought, well, you know what we'll do? We'll bring it out as a CD. So we actually produced a physical CD. Now, that doesn't sound much, but these days everyone seems to go for streaming. Everyone wants to go. I still, maybe I'm old, but I still like physical, something you can hold and something you can look at. And we had a nice cover on it and stuff, and it was like we made 100 of them, and I think I've got 2 left. I consider that a sellout. So it was something obviously people wanted to do, and so much so what we did is, because the EP is now more or less sold out, we stuck the 4 tracks onto the album we've just released called Urban Playground.
Yeah, tell me about that album.
The album's called Urban Playground. It's the 4th release officially by the Chronics / Delchronics, and we self-funded this. We didn't have a record deal, whatever. It was something that we paid for recording ourselves, paid for production ourselves. And what it is, it's a 23-track album, literally has just come out, and the first 100 copies come with a gatefold CD, a 20-page zine, punk fanzine, which includes a little bit of history of the Chronics and Del Chronics, and then it's the full lyrics of all 23 songs, so people can actually get to understand the message that Dominic's saying in his words. And we throw in a badge as well. So we've got that. So that's the thing. But we actually recorded it in 2020, but there's been lockdown, semi-lockdown since. And what we did, we went live in the studio. So the band was set up in the sound room, the live room of the studio. And then Dominic was in a separate booth. But we really want to capture a raw energy, because it's a punk rock album at the end of the day, and you don't want it to be over polished. So what we did that, but when we heard it, it needed some tweaks, and some of the vocals needed redoing. So it took a long time, as I said, with all the time you're not allowed to practice because of COVID. But then we produced an album we really wanted and really liked at the end. And like I said, it's actually 16 tracks long, but we've added on the 4 lockdown tracks I've mentioned, plus 3 other demos, because the most important thing for us was try and make it as value for money. But we also wanted to make it something that people wanted to hear. So we gave one of the tracks, Wreckin It Up, to the Alternative Sounds for local Coventry and Warwickshire music compilation to see how people reacted to it. And we were really delighted with the response, as we are with some of the reviews we've already had. So it's only just come out, but Pete Chambers in the Coventry Observer referred to it as something special or something like that. Eaten Alive did a quote that said, a great album. And then Alan Ryder, who is the author of a great book about the history of zines called Tales of the Ghost Town, Punk Zines, he called it a big fat slice of punky goodness. And that works for me.
Well, I'm gonna play it later.
Oh, thank you very much, Ray. Thank you.
You're welcome. How much is that whole package, the album and all the stuff, the badge and whatever? How much is it going to sell for?
We're selling for £10. We want to keep it a nice round figure, and there's not much of a margin in that. It's done really to try and get our music out there, but also we want people to actually enjoy the package. I mean, we think it's a decent read in the zine. The badge is a decent quality, and the CD is brilliant in my view. Anyway, I'm a bit biased, but we want actually someone to pick it up and go, well, there's a tenner well spent. I mean, if you go and just picked up the CD for a tenner, you might say, well, I wanted a bit more. Apart from that, it sounds great. So we just really want to do it. But any money that we do make, which will only be a couple of quid per sale, will then be put into making our next album. So, which hopefully won't be too long from there.
Sounds incredible value to me.
No, that's very kind. Thank you.
Why did the band go over to One Nation Studio in Warwick to record the album?
First of all, it's a great studio. I want to say that. But it's basically been the home of the Chronic / Del Chronics since 2009, especially through John Wilson, who's one of the partners in it. They were, again, part of the original therapy for the band, and to a large extent still ongoing. The first 2 albums were recorded there. The Lockdown EP was developed there, and it's where we practice. And most importantly, and this is the key thing, is the guys are very comfortable going into that environment. Plus, John's a brilliant sound engineer. In reality, we never considered it anywhere else. And I play in another band as well that's just starting, and we are already recording some material at One Nation because of the work John does.
So do you get those sessions for free?
No, we do pay. It's the original band, they used, again, the direct payment scheme for it. But no, it is actually a commercial enterprise, and a lot of the recording costs were actually because of the sale of the 2 earlier albums, so we put all those together. But no, it was, again, it's all self-funded. This album is, so hands in our pocket. So we hope we'll get our money back from it, but we'll have to see.
The album was mastered at Cage Studio by Martin Bowes.
It was, yeah. Martin was the only place I could go to master Urban Playground, and I think he's done a brilliant job.
Can I get a free T-shirt? No, I don't mean free. Can I get a reduced price T-shirt? Because I see you're wearing one.
I'm wearing an Alternative Sounds t-shirt, but unless you are a size S,
No.
we only made 50 of them.
50.
I think it was 50. It might have been 100, but we sold out apart from um, five small sizes. I think we got our sizes a bit wrong, but no, the completely sold out. So Ray, I would have loved to send you a t-shirt, mate, but I don't have one.
Drat.
And can I assure you this?
Yeah.
In this hot weather we've been having, you wouldn't want to wear the one I'm wearing.
Oh, okay. Where can people buy the album?
Well, we set it up. If you go to the Alternative Sounds on Bandcamp online, you will find the album there together with the other albums we've released. Just dropped in. Alan, who's based in Fargo in Coventry, he's got copies. Ian West at Vinyl Destination in Coventry Market, he's got it as well. And those two have been absolutely superb supporters for everything that Alternative Sounds have done over the years. You can also get a copy in Seismic in Leamington Spa, and we'll sell them through gigs when we play.
Excellent stuff. Are there any events or projects coming up that you can tell me about?
On the 2nd of October, we're back at the Arches. We're also working on some new demos for the next album. I think we've got 15 songs ready to go for the next one. We were honoured to be asked the other week to appear on a national punk rock CD compilation. Again, CDs, people are loving them rather than downloads. A CD compilation called The Spirit of DIY, Volume 6. This is something that's run out of Blackpool, and it's some guys who are associated with the whole Rebellion Festival thing. And they just said, would we like to be on it? So we've sent the track Knock 'em Back, which is, I think it's the third track off Urban Playground. We've given that, and that'll be out 2 or 3 weeks after Rebellion finishes. Apart from the Del Chronic stuff, Dom is currently writing his second book of poetry, following the success of his first one, Is Anyone Listening? And I'm working on Alternative Ska Volume 2, again, support the Two-Tone Village. After that's come out, I'm going to do a compilation with Martin and Chris from Alternative Sounds on the SACV punk label I mentioned earlier. And that's going to be involved with punk bands from Coventry and Warwickshire. And so far, Huffy, who's like a punk poet, is definitely on it. Department of Misinformation say they're going to be on it. Gutter Puppy, who are a great band, I think they're based in Rugby, they're going to be on it. And Eaten Alive fanzine are going to come along and help us get the bands as well, and almost do it as like a bit of a joint venture. I'm about to publish my second novel, and I'm in my other band, Cherry Joe and the Lightning Crew. So I probably need sleep more than anything else, right? And somehow or other, I've got to try and produce a new T-shirt so you can get one.
God, you're a busy bloke there, Nigel.
You got to try and do these things, haven't you? If you stop sometimes and the creativity stops, I think maybe that's when the mental health issues kick in, and that's when you need to stay strong, you need to stay busy, and that's what I'm helping and working with the other guys to try and do, to make sure that the fundamental reason why the band formed in the first place with mental health doesn't have too lasting effect, and they can all move forward.
I think it's a very good moment to finish this interview. Thanks very much, Nigel, for being my guest. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, Ray. It really has.
You're welcome. Thank you. More than a mile away from Coventry City Centre, over in Ball Hill, is the Two-Tone Village. There you'll find a cafe, a shop, a restaurant, and nestled amongst all that sits the Coventry Music Museum, the brainchild of Pete and Julie Chambers. I feel the Music Museum is basically anchored by two-tone memorabilia, mainly of the specials, and I'd say for good reason. In late '79, the band was instrumental in bringing Coventry to the forefront of musical creativity, with a defining brand of ska and reggae blended with punk and new wave overtones. But other genres, artists and bands are well represented as well, going back to the 50s. And so, in the Music Museum you'll find plenty of posters, pictures, records, stage clothes, recording equipment and musical instruments loaned to the museum by many artists and band members, not just from Coventry, but also surrounding towns like Leamington, Bedworth and Nuneaton. The Music Museum is also an active museum with several events staged throughout the year. I remember one time I got to play one of Horace Panter's bass guitars, which was cool. In September 2016, Pete Chambers was awarded a BEM, the British Empire Medal for services to Coventry Music, so I think he's truly a worthy ambassador for the Music Museum and Coventry and Warwickshire musicians. As of mid-2022, the entrance fee is £5 and £3 for old age pensioners. Well, that includes me and almost everybody else I know. I should hire a coach and get them all down there. Coming up is an original song by the Delchronics, recorded at One Nation Recording Studio in Warwick by John Wilson and mastered at K Studio in Coventry by Martin Bowes. On vocals, Don Mulgrew, he also wrote the lyrics, guitar, Adam McCormick, drums, Mike Murphy, guitar, John Wilson, and on bass, Nigel Meffen. Wreckin It Up.
Once I go to toe to toe, lands in the hammock, green ships and havoc, makes you wanna hack 'em, toss it back 'em, flashing blue night, drinking summer nights, wrecking it up, necking it down, working it up, necking it down, working it up, necking it down, working it up, necking it down. Nights of fights through the twilight, home too late to see the highlights, locks on my car, locks on the bar, locks in the cells, I sleep in the cells, working it up, necking it down, working it up, necking it down, working it up, necking it down, working it up, necking it down. Recess day, it feels so high, but my last night don't feel so fine. I never saw her, I'm drinking again, so my head goes, what shows, working it up, necking it down, 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 working it up, necking it down.
That was Wreckin It Up by the Delchronics. Many thanks again to my guest Nigel Meffen. On the next episode, my guest will be record producer and TV music composer John Collins. He's perhaps best known for producing the Specials' 1981 hit record Ghost Town. I'll also be talking about why do rap and hip-hop musicians end up killed. I'll also be shining a spotlight on the rise of 70s punk music. Just a quick news item. Nigel Meffen of the Sounds Alternative team in Coventry are interested in publishing a free monthly gig guide to support local bands, venues and live music fans. To get started, the team needs promoters, venues, bands and artists to let them know what gigs are happening and when. Contact Nigel Meffen on Facebook for more info. I hope this idea takes off. It'll be a great help to everybody, bands, venues and music fans. Let's make it happen. And I think that's it. Yeah, I'm done. Till next time.